Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-aliyyil azim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Abul Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. La siyama baqiyatillah fil aradin. عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. The projector is related to the microphone. Can you turn? Bismillah.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
I am grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me the opportunity to visit you in Ottawa once again, and I pray that inshallah our session would be beneficial for all of us. So our topic is wise activism. I think the topic itself shows that we are in need of activism. But what is important is how to do it. In Islamic understanding of human life, action certainly occupies a very important place. Although maybe the main place to refer, to judge about the person is his or her heart. It is by knowing what is in someone's heart that you can understand whether someone is good or bad, someone is successful or not. But what is in heart should appear in words and action. This is the natural outcome of what is in heart. In Farsi we say, Az kuze burun taravad anche darust. If you have a jar of water from clay, then what is inside this clay jar of water very naturally comes out of the surface of the clay. If there is salty water or sweet water or rose water, whatever it is, come out. So whatever is in our heart naturally appear on our tongue and in our action. But since human life is very complicated, sometimes maybe we are in a position that we should not quickly release what is in our heart. Maybe we need to stop and think, shall I say this or not? Shall I do this or not? Some people think whatever is in the heart should come out. And sometimes they think it's a matter of honesty, that whatever is in your heart, you should say it. But the reality is that it is much more complicated. Sometimes things which are in heart should be said. For example, in our hadith, we have this concept that if you love someone, you should express. If a mu'min loves another mu'min, or a mu'mina loves another mu'mina, they should express. Because nothing bad is going to come out of it, and indeed it can strengthen the relation. But if I have negative feeling towards someone. Maybe I don't like someone's face. Should I tell him, I don't like to see you? Actually, many times, people that you don't like, maybe after some time, if you keep relation, that feeling of oddness would go away. But if you had said it, you could have broken your relation forever. Or for example, a mother, for example, that you want to give a very bad news of, for example, her child has had accident and is now taken to hospital. How you are going to break the news? Shall I go and say with all details quickly everything that happened? Or maybe I should prepare that mother. So it's not that everything which is in our heart should be expressed. It's much more complicated. Sometimes we have to keep it for some time. Sometimes we have to keep it for some people, not for everyone. Sometimes we have to share it to some extent. For example, suppose you are a great philosopher, and now you are teaching an introduction to philosophy to undergraduate students. So what are you going to say? Everything which is in your mind, you are going to bring it to the classroom. You are going to confuse them, and then forever they may hate philosophy. They say, I had a session and I have got headache. So we have to have a careful examination of what we are going to share, what we are going to do, especially when something has socio-political dimension. Even in personal life, we have to be very careful, but when it comes to socio-political affairs that affects life of many people, we have to be more careful. So what I want to share with you is few points that we need to observe when we are dealing with socio-political issues and we are campaigning, we are advocating, we are lobbying, and we do some kind of activism. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that He is the one who created life and death in order to test us who is better in his or her action. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. It is interesting that when Allah refers to death, also says He has created life and death, because death is also an existential, a stage of creation. Death is not nothingness. Death is a stage which is created by God, is one stage of our life. He created life and death to test you who is better in action. Not who is doing more. It's not لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَكْثَرُ عَمَلًا. The question is not how many actions you do or how many statements you issue, how many likes you get, how many followers or fans you have. These are not the major issues. The major issue is who is better in action. أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. What is a good action? So this is something that we should discuss in moral philosophy. If we want to explain Islamic understanding of good action, so we can use the Quranic concept of amal salih. So amal salih, righteous deed, has two dimensions. In Hawzawi terminology, we say amal salih has husn fi'li and husn fa'ili. Goodness of action and goodness of agent. In some moral philosophies, goodness of action is enough. In some moral philosophies, goodness of agent is enough. For example, according to Kant, goodness of agent is enough. If you have good intention, that's enough. According to some teleological philosophers, just if the action produces good results is enough. For example, if you are feeding hungry people, it's enough. What is your intention? Doesn't matter. What is important? Some people are fed. There are homeless people. You help them with housing. This is good. So they say this is good action. Are you sincere? Are you showing off? Are you after getting voted? It doesn't matter to them. But we say no. Every action has to pass two tests. Goodness of the action, goodness of the agent and doer. Goodness of agent is easier to understand, so I started with that. In order to have a good agent, intention of the agent is important. If you do the most needed, the most beneficial thing, but without intention, or with bad intention, is not counted as amal salih. Suppose I am sleeping, and when I am sleeping, I talk, and my assistant hears. I am sleeping, but I say, give $1 million to someone. And that person's problems are solved. But I don't get any credit because I was sleeping. I was unconscious. I just said something I didn't intend. Or for example, by mistake, I wanted to say not to give him, but then I said give him. It has no value. If there is no intention, there is no value. Or if there is bad intention, someone is showing off, someone is munafiq, hypocrite, no value. Intention has to be sincere. And then we have other elements that add to the value. For example, if you are sincere, at the same time you have more ma'rifah, more knowledge, it adds to the value of the action. The more knowledgeable, the more pious, the more sincere the agent is, the value goes higher and higher. So, one thing that activists should observe is goodness of agent, which requires sincerity, consciousness. For everything, you should have intention. And that intention has to be pure. No ego should be there. You don't do activism in order to present yourself or promote yourself or become popular. You do it only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You do it at least, if it is not for the sake of Allah, at least you do it because you feel this is a moral responsibility that you have. You are not seeking pleasure of people or praise of people. This is one side. But the other side is husn fi'li. The action itself should be good. It's not enough that with good intention I give you poison. Suppose there is a poisoned water and I don't know. I give it to you. Or for example, you are ill. I give you a medicine that is going to make you worse. My intention is good, but this is not going to make this amal salih. If instead of water I give you poison, instead of, good medicine, I give you bad medicine, no matter how sincere I am, this amal is not amal salih. If instead of guiding people, because I don't have knowledge, I don't have qualifications, I misguide them, this is not amal salih. So we need to have goodness of action plus goodness of agent together. This makes an action amal salih, a righteous deed. Now, question. For goodness of the agent, we said we need intention, consciousness, and sincerity. What do we need for goodness of action? Here there are different theories. Islamic theory is that goodness of action depends on consequences, on outcomes. In our jurisprudence, we say all religious instructions are based on real interest and harm. الأحكام تابعة للمصالح والمفاسد الواقعية. If Allah says do something or not do, it's based on real interest and harm. If something is needed for human felicity, human salvation, human happiness, then Allah says you should do it. And then among them, if the level of interest is something that is necessary, it becomes wajib. We call it al-maslahatul mulzima. If the level of benefit is not that necessary, means it helps, but even without that you can manage to get salvation, then it becomes mustahab. On the other hand, when there is a serious harm that blocks your way towards salvation, it becomes haram. We call it al-mafsada al-mufawwita. Means it doesn't let you to be saved. If it's harmful, but not totally stopping you, it slows down or, doesn't let you to get to higher degrees, it becomes makruh. Salam. Sure. So, any action in order to be good, in addition to the sincerity of the agent, has to be checked whether this action is going to produce good results, good outcomes or not. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His legislation has taken this into account. Whatever He has said you must do it or it's better to do it is because it is beneficial. Whatever He says you should avoid it, it's because it is harmful. Then a question arises here. Some people ask, what about our duty? What about our obligations? For example, they say, some of our ulama, some of our great personalities have said that we should be concerned about performing our duty, not about the outcomes or results. Does this contradict this idea? When we do something, we should do it with the sense of responsibility and don't bother about outcomes. For example, maybe you are an alim, you are preaching in a city, and people don't show appreciation. Should you stop or you should carry on? You say you should carry on. So then they say, oh look, this contradicts what you said. You said we should calculate outcomes and benefits, but it seems that sometimes we should not bother about the outcomes. The answer is no, there is no contradiction here. You have certain duties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already made the calculation based on general situation. It's not up to me and you that now we recalculate. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a general way has said you have to say 5 times prayer, 17 rak'ah, and if you are musafir, those salat which is 4 becomes 2. Now it's not up to me and you and say no. Now this is a time that there are too many distractions, and in order to achieve what we have to achieve from salat, we need to double the raka'at of prayer. Instead of 17, make it 34, for example, because we don't get the result. Or if it's a time that we are very busy, we reduce it. It's not up to me and you. Or to say, for example, the percentage of khums, we calculate it again. No. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made in His legislation these calculations and has given us fixed rules, we go by it. One of the fixed rules of Islam is that you should share your knowledge with people. And you cannot depend on your estimation and say it's going to be useless. No, you should try. Inshallah, maybe sooner or later, at least 1% response. Don't lose your hope. Don't say this is waste. But there are many things that Allah has left it to us to calculate based on the situation. For example, we have to do charity work. Okay? But shouldn't we decide what should we do based on the needs? For example, in a place that everyone has water, if we distribute bottles of water, because it's good to give water, this doesn't make sense. If everyone has water and we give them water, doesn't make sense. If everyone has dress and we give them dress, doesn't make sense. Let's go higher. Making masjid is one of the best things we can do. But if we have already a masjid and we make another masjid, not only this is not good, sometimes it can be haram because it can divide the community. Maybe now instead of masjid, we should make a school. Maybe we have a school, we should make masjid. Maybe we have a school and masjid, we should make a clinic. We cannot say, no, we make masjid regardless of outcomes and consequences and needs and factors on the ground. No. Everything has to be based on careful assessment of the realities and resources and priorities. And also because we have concern for the entire community and for humanity all over the world. Maybe, for example, here there are people who have basics of life, and there are people in other places that they don't have even the most basic things. Sometimes maybe we have to shift our charity there. Maybe we have, for example, some facilities that are not the best but are functioning, but there are people who have no facility at all. We have a small mosque, we can make it bigger, but for example in another city they don't have mosque at all. Lots of factors have to be considered if you want to do something which is good in itself, and this is after sincerity. Suppose you are sincere, you have husn fa'ili, but husn fi'li is another thing. So, what do we need in order to make sure that we have husn fi'li? You need knowledge and you need wisdom. For husn fa'ili, you need sincerity. If you are sincere and conscious, you have husn fa'ili. But you have to work more and more to purify your intention and add to your sincerity, because sincerity is not one level. Sincerity has different degrees. But when it comes to husn fi'li, you need knowledge and wisdom. Many times, unfortunately, people don't have knowledge, and most of the time they don't have wisdom. Knowledge is not always available, and wisdom is very rare. What is the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Knowledge is general. Knowledge is something that you can go to a school, you can go to university, to hawza, read books, listen to ulama, you can learn. But knowledge does not tell you what you have to do in this context. In addition to that general knowledge, you should have lots of factual information, but more than factual information and knowledge, wisdom, hikmah. And this is something that not everyone has got. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةِ. Luqman became very well known. Why? Because he was one of the exceptional figures who had hikmah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يُؤْتَ الْحِكْمَةِ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Whoever has been given wisdom has been given abundant good. In our hadith, it is said, كَادَ الْحَكِيمُ أَنْ يَكُونَ النَّبِيَّ. Hakim is very close to prophethood. The closest people to the prophets are people who have been given wisdom. A wise person knows how can we bring our ideas to ground. Sometimes I put it in this way. You have an idea. To transform your idea to ideal needs hikmah. For example, Tawheed is an idea. But to develop ideals out of Tawheed needs hikmah. For example, you say we want to have a society in which people are united. So you are bringing an ideal out of Tawheed, which is an idea. Many people just keep ideas. And therefore you see, ideas are there in their mind, but their life is like people who don't have that idea. They are muwahhid, but when they go to shop, when they go to university, when they go to work, you don't see any impact of Tawheed on their life and performance. So, wisdom is to see how ideas can be transformed into ideals. And then how ideals can be implemented on the ground and become realities. Some people know many things about Islamic, for example, thought. But then some people say we can use these thoughts to, for example, form an Islamic organization, an Islamic community, to see that Islamic values can be transformed into having Islamic workplace, Islamic community, Islamic society, Islamic city. This needs hikmah. And then to realize how we can actually establish that. Because some people, for example, say, yes, we must have Islamic city, for example, Islamic organization. But they don't know how to achieve it. This also needs hikmah. Let me read with you, for you a hadith about hikmah. I have some series on hikmah, understanding wisdom, and also right now we have a series in London, practical wisdom in the Quran. My time is very limited. Just as a taste, we can look at this hadith. Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam said, this is in Qurarul Hikam, من الحكمة ألا تنازع من فوقك ولا تستذل من دونك. One of the requirements of hikmah is not to conflict with those who are above you. Avoid as much as possible conflict with those who are above. For example, with your manager, with your professor, with your parents. As much as possible, avoid conflict with those who are above you. وَلَا تَسْتَذِلَّ مَنْ دُونَكَ. And those who are under you, don't humiliate them. Treat them with respect and honor. Some people think in order to control people who work under them, they should humiliate them. Like, Pharaoh, فَاسْتَخَفَّ قَوْمَهُ فَأَطَاعُهُ. He humiliated them, then they obeyed him. But this obedience has no value. Because later they will rebel. Plus, you are losing your integrity. You should honor people who are under you. Your students, your staff, your employee, your, citizens. You should respect them. وَلَا تَتَعَاطَى مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُدْرَتِكَ. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to think that you are a hero or a savior. If something is not manageable and doable and you don't have capacity for doing it, don't undertake. So much we waste our time and energy, or make people wait for us and waste their time by undertaking something that we cannot deliver. It's not enough that I am trying to be kind. It's not enough that I'm trying to help you. If I cannot do something, for example, your car is broken and I cannot fix it. Why I should, attempt to fixing your car? Maybe I make the car worse, or at least I'm wasting your time. I'm wasting my time. لا تتعاطى ما ليس في قدرتك. Don't undertake something that you don't have power to do it. ولا يخالف لسانك قلبك. Hakim is the one that his tongue or her tongue and action do not contradict each other. Don't say something that you yourself don't believe. Maybe you don't say everything that you believe, but never say something that you don't believe. So what you say must be something that you believe, but not that everything that you believe you have to say. So we don't need to say all the truths, but we should never tell lies. وَلَا قَوْلُكَ فِعْلَكَ. Your action and your word should not conflict. وَلَا تَتَكَلَّمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمْ. Don't speak about what you don't know. One of the challenges of activism is that you have to be quick and fast. As soon as something happens, before other people make stances or, before people lose their interest, you have to do something. But many times this is not wise. Sometimes something happens and still there is no enough information. Still we have not heard different narrations. Then we want to make a judgment and we want to, based on that judgment, demand some response. This is not wise. Unless you are clear, unless you have adequate information from reliable sources, you cannot make any stance. Momentum is dying, let it die. We have to go by reasoning and by wisdom. This is the difference between wise activism, Islamic activism, and just activism. Maybe we as a group don't have enough information, we have to wait. Or maybe we don't have expertise to analyze. Who said that we should have a stance for everything that happens? وَلَا تَتْرُكِ الْأَمْرَ عِنْدَ الْإِقْبَالِ وَتَطْلُبَهُ عِنْدَ الْإِدْبَارِ. Wise people are very conscious of time. When you are clear, when you have adequate ground for judgment of what is happening and what is proper response, then don't delay. Not rush and not delay too much. Proper timing is very important. So, you see, hikmah is not something that every learned person has. So, if we want to have proper activism, we need sincerity and consciousness so that we can have husn fa'ili. We need knowledge and wisdom so that we can have husn fi'li. If we don't have these things, then we need guidance of people whose intention is sincere, whose knowledge is adequate, and they have wisdom either as a gift or at least because they have had lots of experiences. Because one of the things that helps a lot in becoming wise is experience and hardship. People who have numerous and diverse experiences and have gone through hardship, they are very likely to develop wisdom. People who have always enjoyed life and everything has going easy for them, and they had only one line of life, they don't have wisdom normally. People who have done different works, different places, traveled, had different teachers, had lots of ups and downs in life, they develop wisdom. Plus, people who are sincere and have simple life, Allah gives them with wisdom. That's another issue that, inshallah, if you are interested, you can follow the lectures on wisdom. I would like to mention 2-3 points and inshallah finish. One is that in activism, in addition to having that particular issue that you are concerned about, it's a matter of justice, it's a matter of, rights, it's a matter of, for example, certain rules, regulations, whatever. In addition to seeing what is the best for that cause, which needs sincerity and knowledge and wisdom, you should try to act in the way that you bring sympathy, you bring respect and honor to the cause and to yourself. It's not a successful kind of activism if you manage to get what you want, but by making people hate you. First, many times you don't get it in this way. But even if suppose you get it this time, but you damage the relation and make those people hate you, then in future, in many other cases, they will plan against you. Suppose, for example, you work in a factory, and on behalf of the workers, you are negotiating over one issue. You should not do it in the way that you destroy the relation. So that maybe this time they compromise, but then they start planning how to get rid of you. You think you have been very successful because you forced them and you took what you wanted. Yes, many times they give you in the first place, but then they become very alert and they plan how to get rid of you. I heard a story, I don't know how true it is. I heard that in one country, I don't mention details, there was a foreign worker, and one of the locals wanted to make a joke or fun with that person. So what he did, when he wanted to sit, he pushed the chair and that person fell down. And he started laughing. And of course, other people also laughed. And this person had a higher position and was from another country. So, but this person didn't react anything. After some years, he made a case against him, and he was accused of fraud and was going to be executed. So before hanging him, he was on the chair. And then this person, whose chair was taken by him, kicked the chair and said, "This is the way you can kick the chair." So at that time he didn't say anything, but planned for him that he was finally killed. So sometimes people maybe even thank you, maybe a smile, and say, "Yes, you were right, we give you this." But you have damaged the relation, you have damaged the trust, then they can plan against you. Or sometimes they want to see who are the possible risks. So it's very important that as much as possible we don't damage relations, because these relations are the most important capital that you have in social life. There is nothing in social life more important than relations. We think money is important, or getting what we want. No. If you have good relations, for years you can get fruits. If relations are damaged, once you get something, but then forever you are losing. Build relations. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, to a person called Abdul A'la, "Ya Abdul A'la, فَأَقْرِئْهُمُ السَّلَامُ وَرَحْمَةَ اللَّهِ." Say my salam to Shia and mercy, rahmah of Allah, mercy of Allah. We say, "Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah." So Imam sent this salam. وَقُلْ, and tell them, قَالَ لَكُمْ, your Imam said this. So this is a message of Imam Sadiq for his Shia. رَحِمَ اللَّهُ عَبْدًا اسْتَجَرَّ مَوَدَّةَ النَّاسِ إِلَى نَفْسِهِ وَإِلَيْهِ. It's a general policy. It's a strategy. May Allah's mercy be upon the servant of God who brings friendship and love of people to himself and us. This is your first priority. This is your first task. Bring love, friendship, respect towards yourself, your group, and our faith, our leaders. How? بأن يظهر لهم ما يعرفون ويكف عنهم ما ينكرون. One of the things that you have to do, but the strategy is there, but then one of the policies is this. There are other policies, but one of them is this. Those things that they appreciate and it is ma'ruf in their moral system, in their mindset, express. Something which is common. But there is something that for you is accepted, for them is not accepted. This is not a common thing. Keep it for yourself. Of course, there are other things to observe, but as a general guideline, as much as possible, work on commonalities, on common grounds, and things that may cause misunderstanding. Keep it for yourself till you are sure that misunderstanding is not going to happen. You are not going to be misunderstood, misjudged. In another hadith, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, "Ma'ashir al-Shi'ah, كونوا لنا زينا ولا تكونوا علينا شينا. O Shia, O believers, you must try to be a source of honor for us, not a source of disgrace. قولوا للناس حسنا. Tell people what is husn. Husn in Arabic is different from khair. Husn in Arabic is more than khair. Khair means good. Husn means good and beautiful. Quran says قولوا للناس حسنا or يقول التي هي أحسن. Say what is good and beautiful, or say what is the most beautiful thing to people. وَاحْفَظُوا أَلْسِنَتَكُمْ. Imam Sadiq says, watch your tongue, watch your mouth, watch your words. Don't let anger cause rude words coming out of your mouth, or words which are not measured. وَكُفُّوهَا عَنِ الْفُضُولِ وَقَبِيحِ الْقَوْلِ. Stop your tongues from excess in words and ugly words. So you should not speak too much, and you should not say bad things. So these are requirements of wisdom. What you want to achieve? Do you want to get results? Do you want to make progress? Do you want to improve? Or you want to satisfy your anger? Or you want to say to people that I have done something? Or you want to, put yourself in the list of people who are heroes? What do you want to achieve? Let me finish with one hadith, and it's very beautiful hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. أثنى قوم على رجل عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. Some people in the presence of the Prophet praised a person. They started praising someone. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله كيف عقل الرجل. How rational is this person? There's a story that some mu'minin from a city in Iran, they sent a request to a marja in Najaf that we have a local alim who is very knowledgeable, very pious. Please appoint him as your representative. But they didn't receive any reply. They sent again, no reply. Then some of them went for ziyarah and met him and said, we sent you some requests, but you didn't reply. That marja said, you told me about his knowledge and about his taqwa, but you didn't tell me about his aql. How rational he is, how wise he is. So, these people praise someone in the presence of Rasulullah, and Rasulullah said, كَيْفَ عَقْلُ الرَّجُلِ. How is his intellect? قالوا يا رسول الله نخبرك عن اجتهاده في العبادة وأصناف الخير وتسألنا عن عقله. They were surprised. He said, Rasulullah, we are saying that this person is doing lots of ibadah. His salat is on time, he's doing salatul layl, lots of good things, asnaf al-khair. And you ask us about his aql, they were surprised. Then Rasulullah said, إِنَّ الْأَحْمَقَ يُصِيبُ بِحُمْقِهِ أَعْظَمَ مِنْ فُجُورِ الْفَاجِرِ. Sometimes an unintelligent, a stupid person who is not bad in his heart, but because he's stupid, may cause harms and may commit sins that a fajr, a sinful person, a vicious person may not be able to do it. Because he's in a position that is trusted. A bad friend, a stupid friend sometimes is worse than an intelligent enemy. Let alone a stupid enemy. The best thing is to have a stupid enemy. But even if you have intelligent enemy, is better than a stupid friend. Because a stupid friend is always liability. Then Rasulullah said, وَإِنَّمَا يَرْتَفِعُ الْعِبَادُ غَدًا فِي الدَّرَجَاتِ. If you remember one thing from tonight, please remember this. There is no problem to remember more. But at least please remember this point. إنما يرتفع العباد غدا في الدرجات وينالون الزلفى من ربهم على قدر عقوله. Tomorrow, on the day of judgment, people will rise in ranks and will be near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on their uqul, based on their rationality. How rational they were, how wise they were. So, we need wise activism. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin.